Zombie Fight Club? Really? Y'all really went there? So for the first 20 seconds of the opening scene, I swore I was watching Lost. I was yelling at my TV like, what is the Dharma Initiative doing at the zombie apocalypse? And look, it's Ben. Wait, no, it's just a gay mad scientist. I told you this Children of the Corn compound was creepy. It's the middle of a zombie apocalypse and they're having a block party. It looks like it was sponsored by the colors of Benetton. So Andrea, who's talking to the gay mad scientist, asks him what's supposed to be going down after the Gap-sponsored block party. Well, as we all know, the first rules of Zombie Fight Club is you don't talk about Zombie Fight Club. And also at the same time, Miss Diary of a Mad Black Woman is standing off in the distance, mean mugging Andrea and the gay mad scientist. And then the scene cuts. That was the look on my face as I watched the disturbing ass scene of the governor and his zombified daughter play dress up. So he just keeps his zombified daughter around with a bag over her head and pulls her out to play with whenever he has some downtime? Something even more odd happens during this scene. As he's done playing with his zombified daughter, he looks out the window, only to find Michonne staring back at him from the street. Now, it's unclear from the scene whether or not she actually saw everything that transpired, or whether or not she's just looking at him while he holds his zombie daughter with the bag over her head. One thing's for certain, it really freaked the governor out. Cut scene, and now we're back at the prison with Shane's crying baby and everyone standing around. Rick is still having his period session on the ground, so Daryl has to step up and figure out a way to get this baby fed. So Daryl and Maggie go back into town to go see if they can get their hands on some formula. I think it was hilarious the look on Glenn's face when he saw Maggie riding on the back seat of Daryl's bike. You don't like that. It's here that I start to have as much disdain for Rick as I did for Lori. While everyone's standing around trying to figure out how to keep the baby alive, Rick decides it's a good idea to pick up an axe and go all I am legend with the rest of the zombies in the prison. Honestly, I thought this was a grand waste of time and energy. Like, come on, dude. Carol watched you kill her daughter after we spent 30 years looking for her in season 3. You didn't see her going all Cell Block C Resident Evil when it happened. The scene is supposed to make Rick look like a raging man after something bad has happened. But in actuality, all it really did was make him look like a temper tantrum throwing biatch. Scene cuts and now we're back at the Zombie Dharma Initiative. The governor is standing on the front steps giving a speech to all the rest of the cult members while Michonne is sneaking around trying to find her sword. Not only does she find her sword, but she also makes a connection between the governor's zombie daughter and the name Penny. Michonne crawls out of the window and finds herself in some back secret place of the Dharma Initiative where they keep zombies locked up. It's in this scene that we find out who Michonne really is. She's Blade's long-lost love child. She opens the gate and lets the zombies out and then walks away like a boss and then hits the zombies with her best impression of The Last Samurai. She's whirling and twirling and going all crouching tiger, hidden zombie until she gets caught. Now she's sitting in the governor's office like she's in grade school because she did something wrong. At this point, the governor's trying to sweet talk to Michonne into staying at the compound and fighting with him, while at the same time trying to make it seem like her saving grace because he's willing to show her some mercy because she broke the rule. It's obviously apparent that the governor's been reading the 48 Laws of Power on his Kindle. So the governor has Michonne's sword while he's pacing around the room and talking to her at the same time. At one point, he gets behind Michonne, and unfortunate for the governor, he doesn't realize that he's dealing with Blade's long-lost love child. And at this moment, Michonne goes into some Spetsnaz sword disarming move, and all of a sudden has her sword on the governor's neck. So we're sitting there for about a couple seconds, and it's a tense moment while she has her sword to the governor's neck. And then she just walks off. The governor didn't like that at all. Cutscene, and now we're back at the prison. At this point, after everything that's happened in the last episode, Glenn's really struggling with the loss of T-Dog, and everybody else for that matter. And quite frankly, in this particular scene, he shows more emotion than he really has throughout the entire series, simply because he's usually really level-headed and stoic, and usually keeps his wits about himself. Cutscene, and now we're back at the safe haven for dummies, and now the governor's talking to Andrea, trying to basically get her to turn against Michonne. Once again, page 7, line 8 out of the 48 Laws of Power. Now Glenn has to go look for Rick because he's still down in the prison playing I Am Legend. You know the part where Will Smith's character's dog dies and then he goes all mad and psycho and decides he wants to kill all the zombie vampires. Yeah, that's Rick right now. The only difference is Will Smith's character in I Am Legend is a lot cooler than Rick. And besides, in I Am Legend, Will Smith's character lost his dog. You only lost Lori. Too much? At this point, Glenn is trying to snap Rick out of it, but Rick is still on his period. So he basically borderline attacks Glenn and then just walks away. But I will say this guy is actually a really good actor, and I have to give him props for that. Next scene, we find Meryl and crew at this makeshift zombie trap, I guess where they trap the zombies to conduct experiments on them. The scene is funny as hell. It's obvious that at this point, the zombies, or walkers as they call them, have been relegated to basically feral hogs. They're all over the place and people just kill them at will, and it's almost kind of enjoyable. You just gotta remember that they're still kind of dangerous. Scene cuts, and now we're with Maggie and Daryl as they go house to house looking for baby formula for Shane's baby. This scene was pretty uneventful. They tried to make it suspenseful, like something was about to happen. Nothing really does. Basically, Daryl finds a possum, kills it, and he has dinner. Now we're back at the Jericho compound. And Michonne is really trying to get Andrea to understand that this compound isn't exactly what it seems. And that every time they decide that they want to leave, they come up with some excuse. So they pack their stuff up and act like they're going to leave. And so they walk up to the gate. And of course, Meryl stops them and says, "Hey, where are y'all going?" Michonne and Andrea insist that they're ready to go and that they were able to leave at will. Well, Meryl calls their bluff and he lets them leave. Well, Michonne decides to leave and Andrea decides to stay. Now, I don't know. In my last assessment of the last episode, I kind of was on the side of Michonne about leaving. But to be honest with you, at this point, yes, I know the governor's weird and the people of the David Koresh compound have this weirdness to them, and we know something's up, but we just can't put our finger on it. But I mean, up until this point, we don't really know what it is besides that the governor's a controlling maniac. But considering a couple of chicks that I saw in the compound, at this point, I might be actually willing to stay in the compound instead of trying to duke it out with the zombies and the walkers out in the field outside the other side of the gate. I'm just saying. At this point, living with Romney's older brother and his backward holsters doesn't seem that bad, especially considering how Rick and them are living in a prison while Romney and gang are throwing carnivals in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. Back at the prison, they finally get the formula to the baby, and at this point, Daryl's decided to play Pappy to Shane's baby. And while he's holding the baby and feeding it, he asks Carl what he thinks he should name the baby. Look, I've tried, I really have, but I just can't help it. Every time they do a close-up of Carl's face and he's speaking, I just want to facepalm him and push him to the ground and yell, "Shut up, ho," every time he talks. Scene cuts, and now we're back with Rick in his I Am Legend episode. And to be honest with you, at this point, I don't really give a shit what Rick is doing because he's quite frankly getting on my nerves. But for the sake of the review, now Rick is down in the basement, I think. To be honest with you, this entire scene kind of went over my head. I feel like I'm supposed to be catching on to something, but I'm not. I'm just kind of drawing a blank. But I'm pretty sure some of you all will put me on the game and let me know what I missed. Because quite frankly, him finding the zombie there with the bloated stomach or pregnant stomach or whatever the hell it was, and him deciding to practice his late-term abortion skills, kind of didn't make any sense to me. Cut scene, and now it's zombie fight club time. You have Merle and some guy from the Insanity workout commercials in a ring surrounded by toothless zombies fighting. Wait, when did Merle learn Taekwondo? This dude's seriously executing roundhouse and straight kicks like a pro. He's like the hillbilly Jean-Claude Van Damme. Something really interesting happens in the scene. As this whole zombie gladiators fighting style thing is going on, Andrea seems really disgusted. She gets this look on her face like she is not in tune with what's going on. And ironically enough, the look on her face and her reaction is really synonymous to how some people feel about other people letting their children learn to shoot guns early or at an early age. In Andrea's mind, she feels that exposing people to such things as toothless zombies and controlling them basically makes them lose respect for the zombies, make them feel like the zombies are safe. Well, on the other end of the spectrum, which would be the governor's case, or gun nuts for this matter, who teach their kids how to shoot early, they look at it more on the lines of you demystify the problem. You don't only lose fear of the problem, but you gain a healthy respect for what it's capable of at the same time. And I just thought it was interesting how I was able to parallel the two between Andrew's reaction to the zombie gladiator fighting and how some anti-gunners view gun ownership in general, or teaching your kids how to use a gun at an early age. Because quite frankly, the look on Andrea's face is the same look that an anti-gunner would have at a handgun training course. So cutscene, we're back with Rick, and after he's done going all helter-skelter on the zombie he found on the ground, something very funny happens. The phone rings. What? Well, that's it, folks. That's Season 3, Episode 5 of The Walking Dead. And I'm MrColionNoir, and I'm out.